Enjoy show live show. We're more tired than we've ever been in our lives. Do you
I
need to
just,
get out of work early?
well, that would help. But I just realized that my microphone was muted too. So all of that,
No.
it's just you talking to yourself. It's a flawless beginning to a wonderful show.
That means the first thing they heard was enjoy show live
Live
show
show
live.
live. Yeah. I should
I'm
do
all
that
right with
one
that.
week. Just keep my microphone muted, but not tell you, so that
How do you mute it to me, but you don't have it on the broadcast?
OBS and within the software, I had it muted
Oh,
for some reason. I don't know why.
oh
Oh, I do
well, you
know why. It's
fucking,
because last thing I was doing was capturing just gameplay clips for that YouTube video I did, and I didn't want to get microphone noise in there.
well, don't unplug your mic. Turn off your mic. You don't fucking fuck with a setting and then leave your co-host out to dry.
Oh, sure you do.
Now people think I'm crazy,
Well, you,
like they didn't before.
yeah,
So, did you have a good holiday, Steve?
it was a holiday. Yeah,
Want to go through the formalities?
yeah,
You fucking traveled and shit. You have to go see family and
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna adjust my
all.
camera while I'm talking because too easy to do that beforehand. Wait, I can. It could be worse. It's about a 2 hour drive to Tara's family, but there's like three different people, like houses up there because her parents are divorced. So we see like her mom's side and then her dad's side, and then sometimes there's like other random people to see. Um, then we go to my brother and his wife's house in the morning before we leave town. They're they're out of town too, but they're like a half hour away, not whatever. But we end up any holiday like that, we end up spending probably 6 to 7 hours in a car, which is about the same total of time as like we spend at all the places combined. So,
Hmm,
mm.
that
But
sounds
it's
like shit.
yeah, I I don't like being in the car and traveling, but it is cool getting to see family that you don't get to see that often. So that was good. Nobody died,
Yeah,
so
there you go.
yeah.
That's a win. I like we only go to like a friend of the family's house for Christmas. That's been kind of our tradition every year. Christmas Eve we go to dinner, and normally I have an all right time, but for some reason, like I went and like I hard to tell if I was just being a tremendous dickhead or
Probably.
probably I drink a little bit, and that's when I tend to get a little standoffish if I think a situation is incredibly boring. Just like and people there, it gets to the point where like I'm just on my phone and like people are noticing that I'm not engaging with the rest of them. But it's like I'm fucking sorry. I have nothing to contribute about conversations regarding Cheap Trick. Like I have nothing to say about your fucking old bands and shit. It was really awkward and just sort of like, and I didn't do anything to try to make it less awkward. I was like, no, if I'm gonna be fucking uncomfortable and bored here, you're gonna be uncomfortable too. So that's the Christmas spirit for me. Uh, get drunk and be a fucking dick at a party. Um,
It. I mean that you basically just described like the definition of holiday, though. It's
yeah.
like
Well, I think it's really annoying when and I made a tweet about this where like people will talk your ear off and I'll just like you'll stare out into space and not process anything they're saying because you can't remotely give a shit. And they're like people are fine with that for some reason, but the moment you pull out your phone and ignore their bullshit, like actively, like when they feel like, oh, now I'm competing for attention with a device, like then they get fucking annoyed and they say you're rude. And I don't understand that. It's like,
it's
why
like
do I have to willingly subject myself to like the most boring
I,
fucking
I was being rude the
conversations?
whole time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I do. It started rude. Now I'm finding something productive to do. Um, and like I've never understood that like the other way because you know me, I'm a fucking rambling, negative piece of shit. And so I'll go off on these tangents when I'm hanging out with friends and they'll pull out their phones and do their shit. And I don't get mad that they're not really listening. Because I don't really, it's selfish, but I don't really care. Like I'm just trying to get the fucking rage out so we can continue our night, and they'll just be like, yeah, that's fucked up. And it's like, and that's great, fucking best friends a guy could ask for. If they're willing to like just ignore me for a few minutes before we could get back to something amusing, then like that to me that is the nice way of handling it. The rude thing would be like, excuse me, you're incredibly boring. Shut up. You
Yeah.
know,
See,
I didn't do that.
my family tends to do the thing where they're not listening to you, which is fine because I tend to ramble. Actually, I'm like the least bad in my family about it, but we're ramblers too. But you'll be in the middle of saying something, and then they'll just like start a separate conversation, like not even in a break in your words, just like, oh yeah, so then this thing, and then they'll just like turn and start talking to somebody else, and it's like,
Yeah, interrupting is like a pet peeve of mine.
mm-hmm.
I had like a friend of mine, like he got a lot better about it now. He doesn't do it at all anymore. But I remember when we were in like high school, we would I would be telling a story and he would always like just fucking right in the middle of it. Just be like, "Oh yeah, that's like when," and it's like, fucking dude.
Yeah. And it
Hold
just
your thought, god damn
and
it.
it makes it extra good when they interrupt, but then launch into something completely unrelated to what you were saying.
Well, what
So,
annoyed me about it was like this friend is like he he didn't just interrupt. He would have his own story, but that would branch off into like five more
mhm,
stories. So you would never get your opening back in to finish what you were saying.
right.
Uh, I notice I kind of analyze conversations like my life is an episode of Seinfeld, and like I feel like I'm probably the only one like putting this much thought in. He cut me off, but yeah,
Yeah, it's frustrating. But see, I'm the
it
kind of
is.
person that I get annoyed to but then all I do is that's when it's like, fine, I'll just retreat. Like, I'm not going to participate in conversations or pay attention to what you're saying either. It's like, whatever, I'll just go off into my little corner.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so Christmas Eve was some of that, and then Christmas Day was really, really nice. Had a 3-day weekend over the holiday, and
And they've been working
uh,
the shit out of you too, so that had to be good.
oh yeah, it was really nice. And now because my store did so fucking poorly over our sales expectations over the holidays, they're cutting back my hours pretty hard.
Mm.
So I get even more time off, which I'm fucking great with
Yeah, but
because
that's
there's
one of those
plenty of
catch
shit to
22.
talk.
So it's like, yeah, I need this time off. It's like, but then the money starts to go away too.
True, but I got paid on Christmas Eve. And after the holidays, I bought some shit on the Steam sale, but I'm not too worried about money. I get paid in another week, so um,
Woohoo!
woohoo, minimum wage. Gotta love it.
Minimum wage. Yeah. They might
What
be
is that?
giants. That's a
Oh,
um. Oh
I thought that was an original, an OG.
no, it's an original like part of my childhood when it's from Flood, the album Flood. Um, and I remember it was one of those things. A friend got it. We had heard of, they'd been around for a while at that point. But that's the album with like Particle Man and Istanbul was once Constantinople, whatever. It's like, so it's got all those like really notable or recognizable songs. But he got the CD from like one of those mail order like get 10 CDs for $1, and then they try to like wrangle you. I don't know if they even still have those, but it makes it sound like a really good deal. And then they try to what they're
It
really
sounds like something where I work would try to
yeah.
sell you.
And then once you're in, they try to like lock you into like you have to buy now a $30 CD once a month, or something like that. I forget how those schemes worked, but anyway, he got this album and we put it in and we were listening to it the first time and like because we had heard a couple of the songs and like so a new song would come on and we'd be like, oh, this is good, and then all of a sudden this song comes on and it just like opens with a little drum riff and then the guy goes minimum wage, yeah, and you hear like a bullwhip in the background, and then it goes on and there's some instrumental stuff. And we're like, okay, and the instrumental stuff will kind of pick up and then it'll go back down and keep going, and we're like waiting for the song to kick in. Well, it's a mostly instrumental. That's literally the only line in the song. So it was just funny because we were both sitting there like anticipating the rest of this weird ass song, and it just never comes. It's just, that's all the song is. And I realized that this story sucks, but it was it was just a hilarious like thing because both of us had those faces like just like what is this? And it's nothing. Um, but I love.
That's always fun when you get down like a you have a thought coming, and then like mid thought you realize this is a bad idea. I should stop now. But
Mm,
you gotta keep going. You gotta finish it.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's made up like half our show's content is
pretty
thoughts we
much.
didn't stop in time.
Oh God, I made a mistake
Um,
of going back, and I know you saw it because you said something about it, but I was just kind of playing. What I was really doing was looking for those like stupid openings I used to do, like the like little taglines, or worse, that the guitar like stuff. And
mhm.
so I
You
listened.
mean the
Oh
best
yeah,
of
yeah.
Njoystic?
And it was like we didn't number the episodes back then. We just went by date, but it was probably our fifth or sixth show.
We knew
And
we know we numbered all of them.
the
Uh,
post didn't have a well. The podcast itself, if you listened to it, probably did. But I listened to like
if
20
nothing else, I have them back when I was the
seconds.
editor. That's me sounding fancy. I put it in an Audacity file and
Well,
exported it.
the other way you
Like
could word that
all
is
those raw
back when we
files are
back when we had an editor, because now it's just this.
yeah.
But I can't
But
believe you
yeah,
still have all that.
uh, I don't know if I brought them onto this computer, but I definitely have them on my old one.
This take up a
Uh,
lot of space.
they do. Uh, and that was a huge like I don't know why I kept them. Honestly, they're terrible. Most of them. There were some classic moments back there, but I don't like throwing shit away if I feel like well, fuck, what if we need to upload this somewhere else or something and you don't have the file? Then, so I always kept them, and now they're there,
It is
and
right of you not to trust me to back up anything. I've got like some of the podcast stuff, like hit and miss, like some really old stuff and some regular stuff, and then there's even some more recent stuff that I like don't have. But
you didn't have the best goddamn guitar intro ever. I remember that. Like that took some hunting down to like find that intro, but
this is the
nobody knows
start
what we're talking about
of the
because
podcast.
that's right.
I forget exactly how it went, but it was wonderful. It had like two different chords. Sounded like a Blues
It's one of
Clues
those
thing.
things that like I remember exactly how it goes, but I get embarrassed for you when I remember it. So anyway, so
Yeah,
yeah, I watched a lot of movies over the holiday. Saw Star Wars,
yeah,
and
yeah.
nice.
I'm kind of like interested in doing a spoiler cast on that because there's some things to talk about. But like
I
my wife saw it with me. That's the only Star Wars movie she's ever seen, so she's like, "Oh yeah, I liked it," but she doesn't have like any of the context.
yeah,
Um,
I think it was top three. I liked it more than A New Hope
uh,
because Hope to me it is a really funny movie, but I think like especially considering I wasn't growing up in the time those movies were coming out in theaters. I always saw the original trilogy as just like I always saw that as just like okay, this is a fucking long slog to get to Empire, you
yeah,
know. So and I thought Force Awakens did a really good job. I was surprised how much I liked the new characters in it because that was the big question mark. You're gonna like Han Solo, you like Luke and shit, but are you gonna like these three new guys? And it turns out, yeah.
yeah.
Unfortunately, the one I liked the most wasn't in it hardly at all, except to do pilot stuff, and
Poe,
it's yeah,
yeah,
and I
Poe's
wanted
pretty
more
fucking
Poe.
awesome. Like,
He's the only character who seems to realize he's in a Star Wars movie and how cool that is.
Right.
Like everyone else is like they're dealing with their own bullshit.
Yeah, and I liked Finn a lot, and Ray,
Yeah,
like there was nothing wrong with Ray. Like everybody's like, "Oh, she's the greatest character." I didn't think she like played as much of a I don't want to say played as much of a part because she's in like the entire movie, but she's kind of like her and Finn. I don't know. You can see them setting the next two up.
it's
Um,
well, it seems very vanilla Jedi stuff to
right,
me. Spoiler, it's fucking Star Wars. Of course, she's gonna be a Jedi, but like a lot of my problems with her as a character aren't really with her, but with like just how they wrote it. It felt like they were trying to get a lot done really quick.
right. I think
So
that was kind of the
so like
impression.
the fact that she could just do like force shit because like they're like, "Oh, you're strong in the force." And then suddenly she can do the Jedi mind trick and like she can use a lightsaber. It's like she can use a lightsaber going up against somebody who even though he's like
Well,
I that's another thing. Like Kylo Ren is not it,
I, I'm so glad I watched the movie so I could like pay attention to that Kylo Ren like parody Twitter account. I don't know if you've seen it.
I
Oh man, it's brilliant. But like everybody was retweeting it the week after the movie came out, and I hadn't seen it yet. And at first, I was like, "Yeah, these are kind of funny." Then they started to get a little spoilery, so I blocked it. But
yeah.
he is such like that emo teenage goth like
I actually
character.
I really liked the character.
Yeah,
I thought they had
he's
a that's a really hard thing to do.
but he
Is
is one.
make a character that's like immature and troubled and stuff like that, but make it believable. Like
Right.
I was telling my friends after we saw it, like that's where they fucked up with Darth Vader in the prequels was it wasn't believable to see that transformation. He just fucking flipped, and next thing you know, he's murdering children because he killed Samuel L. Jackson and couldn't live with himself, I guess. Um, but in this one, you like the Sith are kind of like they just sort of latch on to using their emotions and shit to feel stronger. Like it's kind of like the Force with Sith is like a kid with a gun. You
Right.
know, just like there's no control, no like responsibility behind it. And I thought they did a good job really making him troubled and really like you like he came through as like a really pitiful figure and at the same time he will make you fucking hate him by the end of that movie. You
And
know,
he's like the goofiest looking motherfucker I've ever seen. Like, and that's a lot coming from someone like me. But
and he
like,
and that's the other thing that works. I thought
right.
because you know like they set it up in the trailers and stuff like oh it's this is the fucking new Darth Vader and shit and that's exactly the spin they want to give you on that character because then they reveal like actually he's a little more incompetent than that. He's a little more
Well,
immature. He's because that's the joke I think everybody made when they saw that trailer is like Darth Vader wannabe,
mhm.
literally
Yeah.
a Darth Vader wannabe, and I thought that's actually that makes the plot a lot more interesting to me because like Darth Vader, he was more of an enigma. Now we know who Kylo Ren is, and that makes like you know this conflict that's going on in the story a lot more tragic and
And
uh,
they're
a
also
lot more.
setting up something we've talked about with video games before, where at least they've got it in the first movie and set up for the rest of the trilogy, where it's a villain, but it's not as straightforward as just this dude's evil. Like it's
Right.
always more interesting when there's more depth to why the villains do the what comes across as the bad thing.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, if I had any like criticism with it besides like you know it's not the perfect movie, but it is a fun movie to watch and I am excited for a new trilogy, which is weird to say in 2015. Um, but you know, I also it is kind of formulaic
Yeah.
Like it is beat by beat A New Hope, just new characters in a lot of
Well,
ways.
and that was
Um,
something that like they did it a couple times. I thought this is really like kind of cool and whatever. But there are a lot of scenes in The Force Awakens that are pretty much just lifted from the original trilogy. Like even
yeah,
the trench run at the towards the end, and you can tell that they're mostly doing it on purpose. Like haha, look, this is a throwback to this other thing that happened. And if you do that a couple times, it's fine. But like, there were so many things that were just like basically ripped from the old movies. Like, well, this worked, let's do it again. And that kind of
yeah,
annoyed me, but not to the point where I'm like, oh, I hate the movie.
yeah. You know, it gets kind of you know. To be fair, like somebody pointed, like I read a few articles pointing this out, where it's like, yeah, it is kind of just, or like in a lot of ways, it's repeating the old movies, but in the end, that's kind of what people wanted.
And I'll tell you, it's
Because when they tried to deviate, it led to some shit
that's true.
shows.
Yeah. And it's one of the few movies I've seen in my entire life in a theater where there was multiple parts where something would happen or a reveal would happen and you wouldn't necessarily hear like everybody like cheer. I wasn't in a theater. I know that happens in a lot of places, but
Right.
my particular audience weren't like, "Oh, let's break out in applause." Thank God. That drives me nuts. But you could just like feel like everybody like gasp almost like the like most of the time excited gasp or sometimes it was a more shocked gasp.
Yeah.
But
And say
there was
we got it
multiple
far enough
points.
away from that.
Yeah. Well, and it sounded like was it you? I was talking to somebody that saw it, and their theater was like almost empty. Ours was packed. I was a little pissed because we got there. It was Tuesday night, and it was the Tuesday after the opening weekend, so I knew it would still be packed, especially because that's discount night, and everybody in town like myself are cheap passes. But I got
Sure.
there an hour early, and like out in the lobby where you buy tickets, there's the hallway to go back to where the theaters are, and above it they have this board that I've never even noticed before. It might be new, but it would show the upcoming, what movies are about to start, in the next hour, and whether or not you can, if it's open to seating or if they're waiting to seat. And our movie, the Star Wars, was at 8:10, and the last movie up on the board was at 8, and it wasn't seating yet. And then in the lobby, they had a sign that said, Star Wars 8:10 showing, line starts here. And so I'm kind of thinking, well, sweet, we got there like an hour early. I'm like, we can get in the front of the line and get whatever seats we want. And so we get our tickets, and Tara has to get her like $30 fucking popcorn. And then we go up and we're like, "Can we get in line?" He's like, "Oh, you can already. It's go ahead and go on in. You can already sit down." And I was like, "Fuck." And sure enough, we
Yeah.
walk in an hour before the show, and there was no seats left. Like we had those crappy seats like way up front where you're like looking straight up. But
Yeah.
yeah,
We
I like the movie.
like we saw it. We could only get like the only seats that were available were for a 10 o'clock at night showing in 3D. I wasn't planning on going this early. Like I always wait for movies to be almost out the door before I go see them. But my friends were going and they offered to pay, and I'm cheap, so
Yeah.
more so than you. And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it. And I had never seen a 3D movie before. Uh,
Oh, you saw it in
and
fancy 3D.
yeah, and the chairs are great. They were like recliners, so that's pretty fucking awesome at my theater. The goddamn 3D is such an eye strain.
I know.
Like it took a lot to focus on it. And by the end of the movie, I couldn't tell if I was like actually that upset about how the story goes, or I was just crying from the eye strain.
Yeah, see that my wife's never seen a 3D movie in theaters, and then our friend that we went with, she likes them, and we went to the regular one for two. The timing was better and it's cheaper because it's full price if you go to the 3D. I wouldn't say it's like $13 a ticket instead of 5.
Uh,
And but I hate 3D movies, and they know that. That's one of the reasons why we didn't bother paying extra to go. But my wife, I think, has it built up in her head like, oh yeah, it'll be great, and I'm like, it's terrible. Like it's a neat
like
trick, and I think if you were watching like a 20-minute or half hour movie, like show, it would be fine. For like a
yeah,
2 hour or 2.5, I forget how long Star Wars was, a little over two, I think. By the end, you're just like, okay, fucking quit.
Yeah, a little bit. It wasn't that bad. I could still enjoy the movie. And Star Wars, surprisingly, you think they would beat you over the head with the Millennium Falcon jumping at you, but they actually, it was, few and far between. It wasn't like beating you over the head with the 3D effect. Um, it was kind of a trip though to like take off the glasses and see the fuzzy bullshit. It's like it was like, man, 3D technology is weird. How'd this like become a mainstream thing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the movie. It was pretty much what I wanted it to be, which was fun. Kind of. I wouldn't say like, oh, they're building a masterpiece here, but I would say, it's like that Avengers level of like, this is a fun flick.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
liked
then
it.
I
And then you
also
watched,
watched.
yeah, I'll let you say it.
Well, I watched a few things. What are you talking about?
What was, I was trying to think the one that you were just bitching about. Oh, Sideways.
Oh, geez, that
I
no,
forgot. I
that
forgot to
was,
grab a glass of wine before we started the show.
dude, Sideways is so fucking terrible. Well, like that is one of the worst movies I've ever watched, and I only watched like that 15 minutes of it, and then saw that like The Shining was on, and I immediately switched to that. Um, but fuck, dude, like I think the problem is that like uh like I know people like that who just these assholes who don't shut the fuck up about wine and think it means more than it means. Like is solely just a terrible way to get drunk. It's not special. Like and the shit they're saying in the movie is so preposterous and just like a bottle of wine is alive. No, it's not. It's fucking alcohol. Like and I'm like, I'm trying to take a nap. I turned it on because it's so fucking boring. And I knew I heard it was such a boring movie that I was like, okay, I'll fall asleep to this. I did not expect to get so angry at the dialogue of it. So yeah, Sideways, fucking fun shit. Um, Edge of your seat, romp. Um, I also
Yeah.
watched Mad Max.
Oh, had you not
You
seen
ever-
it when it came out? You
No,
mean you said Fury Road? I thought you went and
yeah,
saw it. I think I don't know why.
no, I don't. I only see like one movie a year. Um, and this year it was Star Wars. Um, but yeah, I watched that. I got that on Blu-ray for Christmas, and that was pretty good. Um, I don't. I guess I don't see the big deal about it. Like I thought Star Wars was way better, but it was fun. And I also watched Ex Machina. I don't know if you've seen that.
Mm.
That movie's a fucking trip.
I
Uh,
don't. I thought that I only know a little bit about that, and but what I've heard, I didn't think had been overwhelmingly good.
it's pretty good. It's the type of movie that like it's good on its own, and it's this really interesting like look at like a super advanced AI and like motivate like the motivations of an AI when it gets that advanced, like what's it trying to do. Um, but like really, I like thinking about it more than I did actually watching it. Like it's a really great like thought exercise type movie, and like it's a movie you want to talk to people about. So that was pretty good.
I'm gonna make sure not to see it then, so that we can't talk about it. I
It would be
probably won't see
well,
it,
it would
but
be it would be like every video game we talk
that's
about
pretty
on
true.
here, except for today, where we have
Yeah.
video games where we both played them. Finally. And I love that our Game of the Year award content is going up this week before I could have stopped you from
I know
giving
it's
Ori and the Blind Forest anything.
2 awards. Well, you gotta
And they're
even
both
if you hate, you had
it's
to like the
bullshit.
soundtrack.
It it's fine. It's like a more forgettable Journey soundtrack. Um,
The
there's
funny thing
nothing.
is, it's the reverse for me because I don't remember crap about the Journey soundtrack. But Ori, I can sit here like in my head and play through the songs still.
You just played it. Like
I played it for like 30
that's not
seconds
fair.
to get video,
I
but
just played it and I can't remember shit about it. Except I didn't like the game very much. That's not fair. It's perfectly all right for the most part. Like it's an entertaining way to kill some time, but it is like all right. Here's the problem with Ori. It it's an exploration game that doesn't seem to value exploration as a gameplay mechanic. Like the fact that it like locks you out of areas so you can't 100% complete it unless you do it the first time you're in that level is absurd. I that's that's indefensible to me that you can't like go back after you've gotten all your powers to certain levels because they're locked off. That's bullshit.
eh. See, I never had a problem with that, but that's probably because the difference between like me just wanting to level up what I can and get through the game, and you wanting to like max out everything or get everything.
Because that's the point in a game that's about exploration is like exploring, doing everything there is to do. And also I didn't like how navigating the world felt for the most part. Like I did like that the upgrades felt really valuable. Like every time you got a new ability, even if it was just a double jump, like it really helped feel like you were opening the world up. But it feels like the game sort of gives you some stuff and then it just stops. And then it's this annoying, like, well, I guess I have to backtrack here, 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 until just before the end of the game where you get the shit that will, let you go and actually do the stuff that's off to the side. Like, I feel like the games in that genre have done a better job being more gradually opening up and sort of letting you decide when you'll go back and do things. This one just sort of like Ori just sort of knows like, well, you're not coming back here till you're almost done with the game. Which is another problem with locking off areas because the whole time the game's conditioning you to just leave it. You can come back
Yep.
here when you have the shit for it. And and some of those levels that were locked off, I gotta be honest, like they were like the reason I didn't go there and do everything that there was to do the first time through was because they were absolutely terrible.
Well,
Like
then why do
there
you
were
want to go
no
back? You should be
because I
happy
want
that
to
they're locked
collect the
off.
shit. Because I want to collect the shit. Because that's fun. But the stuff where like you're like magnetized or whatever to like the ceiling and you're dropping around and stuff, that
Oh,
that
that
was completely out of like that did not even fit that game at all.
that segment, it just took me so long to figure out how that mechanic was working. It was one where it's like, oh, I think I understand what's going on here, and then you'd like go rocketing off in some direction. You're like, oh, nope. Um, if it's the one that if we're talking about the same
Yeah.
section, but once I figured it out, it was fine, and it was really interesting. I really liked the like that slingshot power you end up getting, uh, where you can like lock onto an enemy projectile and fling it the opposite way, and like use it to propel yourself. Um,
I and see, and this is where like we're at an impasse. I fucking hated that. Like I hated it in the way of like go back to the beginning of this conversation. Ori is an all right game. It's just it does little things that annoy me, and that was something that annoyed me because that's a power up that it almost feels like they didn't have a smoother way to do it. Like because that whole game to me, the benefits of that game are when you're in motion. Like the game's beautiful in motion. It feels good when you're in motion, when everything's moving. And to have a power up that just like stops everything and then like, oh, gotta aim, adjust, boop, and then, chain that together, like it feels really clumsy to me. Um, And that's kind of my biggest problem with Ori is that like the game's at its best when it's at its most graceful, and it keeps trying to find ways to undermine that. Um, so yeah,
I
that's our award for best
best
game
game.
under $20.
Yep, not Rocket League.
Yeah, fucking God, anything. Shovel Knight.
That doesn't count.
Oh,
That came out last year.
I don't give a shit. Ori is not as good as Shovel Knight, therefore Shovel Knight wins. Um,
I'm gonna go back and change all your like awards to Ori as well. Like, except for like Dick Move of the Year and
no, Ori, hey, give it Dick Move of the Year. Dick Move of the Year, locking me out of areas in an exploration-based platformer. That's that. That is right up there with Konami.
I think as if the fault is you like making it an exploration base, and I think it was more about really just the story. Um,
They keep a percentage of like what you've done in areas. Like that's not on me. That is the game
okay.
they made, and they did it badly.
I love Ori. I want to go back and play it again.
I,
Um,
Go for it.
the interesting thing, because I just posted the best writing, this will be a little hard to talk about without getting too spoilery. But for The Witcher 3, I was like right before the ending of that game when we were going through our deliberations and like as I was writing this stuff up, and then I finished it like afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were talking about how, oh, yeah, the plot picks up and it's moving like a freight train. I didn't love the ending, and I don't know if it. I know you can get kind of different
Well,
endings,
I
but
well, probably, but I think when we were like specifically when we were talking about best writing and stuff, let's like I was just listening to the Giant Bombcast where they were talking about best character and stuff, and and they're right. Like the best part of that game, writing wise, is the Baron stuff. So I did think the main story picked up near the end for me, but I mean, I still have no qualms with it winning that award just because the stuff in the middle of it is so well done. But yeah, if there's a way to not be too spoilery, what did you not like about it? Or be spoilery, I don't give a shit.
trying to think how to best put this without. It's just the way it. I'll just say it wasn't the way it wrapped up wasn't like satisfying to me. Like I thought it built up and then it was just like, yep, here you go. Um, and maybe part
I
of that was it didn't at all end how I expected it to, given what we know about the Witcher franchise in general. And I know these are all like really hollow, vague points. We'll talk about them if we do a spoiler cast, which would be fine, or just off air. But
we do that a lot.
yeah, and but I mean, it's not enough that like I wouldn't revoke the best writing, as you said, because the very end is that's just one little part, and it was so much more. The Bloody Baron was probably the pinnacle for sure, and that was some of the most interesting, emotionally like investing story of a game in a long time that I can remember, not just like this year. Uh, but it's I don't know. I think I was just waiting for this big like end of trilogy payoff, and then it really didn't. Um,
To
so
see, like, if you're framing it in I can't speak to that because I didn't play one or two. So to me, this wasn't a trilogy, really. It was The Witcher 3, but The Witcher 3 was just its own story for me. And I kind of liked, without getting into specifics, like, I liked how the whole game, you're this badass, and one way or another, you're always trying to stay in control of any situation, and you're always trying to protect the people you care about, and you're always trying to make things right as you see it. You're always trying to control every scenario, and I liked that at the end of that game, you have to in the story, you have to let that go and actually trust other people. And I thought they did a really good job of that. Like, I always kind of like that Limbo is sort of the same way. Where it's just like at the end of the game, you kind of had to like let go of like trying to, you know, fucking be on top of everything. And I thought The Witcher did a really great job story wise. Building up to this point where it's like, you can let, you can trust this person. They'll take care of it, and it's not an easy thing to do. For that character, so I like the ending. I don't know what ending you got. Uh, I know there are a fuck ton of varieties to the ending, like different little things can play out, different big things can play out. But I liked where mine left. I thought it ended on a satisfying note.
I disagree. You're wrong.
Well, that's the second time you've been wrong on this show. So
Only second time tonight.
I
Yeah,
and in terms of games,
but
uh,
and I was trying to think if there's anything else. The Steam sale. I
just
haven't.
fucking Counter Strike, baby.
Yeah, and I'm still hesitant to pick that up because I don't know how much I'll actually play it. But I know
I've
you've
been
been
I've
enjoying it.
been I've been playing that and Destiny every night. Like I make time for both, and it's weird. Because I know it's like two completely different fucking audiences of shooters, and everyone who plays Counter Strike is like fucking cringing. Like if they heard me say like, "Oh, I'm gonna go play Destiny now," like, but I enjoy them both in very different ways. Like CS:GO is like Counter Strike has not changed at all. And that's a good thing in my book. Like, it's still really difficult. It's still occasionally infuriating. It's really fun to play, and you still have people just randomly join your game to blast music through their microphone.
I know, as if you can't mute them easy enough, but
Yeah, you can, but would you want to? When
those people's
I
taste in
always love.
music's always so good. But
Yeah, we can always kick them if it's bad
well,
music,
yeah,
but let's see what the fuck they think is they get to broadcast it on our server. I do feel like I'm a lot better at it though than I was like back in like junior high and high school. Entire summers would go by where I would stay up until like 5, 6 a.m. playing Counter Strike. Like in between turns, like when I would die, I would pick up my Game Boy and play like a turn or two of Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, and then I would go back to playing Counter Strike when I got back in. And it was that type of game where like if you stopped playing for a day, you were fucked. Like you could it felt like you lost like a week's worth of experience. Um, but going back to it now, playing CS:GO, like I was originally playing Source, but which I love is like I love that Source is still the same price as Counter Strike Go,
yeah,
because
that's
that's just how crazy Counter Strike fans are. It's like, oh, there's a new version, fuck it, I'll pay full price for the old one. Um, but yeah, it's still really fun. There's really not any shooter that is like it. Just like that requires that sort of like it's a really snappy game, but it's also one you have to be really deliberate
right.
about. You have to really think about like if I'm not behind cover, there's a chance there's a guy across the map who has me dead to rights. So always be behind a box. So I've been playing a lot of that. Uh, Hopefully, when my new mic gets here, that's when I'm gonna try to get a regular streaming pattern going, and then hopefully I can stream some of that
Yeah,
because that'll be a
that's
fun game to lose shit to in public.
that would be a terrible game for me to stream because well, part of the reason why it's like I kind of iffy or on the fence of picking it up is because I have talked about before. Like that's one of the few games that kind of like you. I in high school we played the original Counter Strike. Um, nonstop. We'd have LAN parties where we'd all bring our computers sit down to a friend's basement and play like from 6 in the evening till like we were about to pass out the next morning, like just all night. And it was a game that I got to the point where I don't know that I'm not saying I could ever compete it at all on like the pro gaming circuit, which didn't really exist back when I played anyway. But I could join about any game online, and I'd almost always be in like the top two or three in the server, like score wise and kill death ratio wise and stuff. So I was pretty good at it. But then there would be times it wasn't like for me it wasn't like you say if I missed a couple days I'd come back and I'd suck. It had nothing to do with that. It'd just be so fucking streaky. Like fortunately my like good days far outnumbered my bad, but some days you'd get on and just like nothing you it couldn't do anything right. Um, so that always sucked. But it always made up for it the next day when you're playing and you were so good that like everybody starts complaining, bitching that you're using hacks and cheats and stuff.
Yeah, that was another thing I missed is like it's been a long while since I played an online shooter. What the fuck is this shit on my monitor? It's like plastic. I've had this computer for months and
Just
I'm realizing there's
that's
still
just
wrapping
true.
on it.
um,
Sorry about that. But like I forgot where I was.
well, what I
Oh,
was
what
getting
was
at
I
is I know if I
saying?
pick up Go, I'll probably get in expecting to be halfway decent, and then it will suck. I'll just completely be terrible at it. Um, I'm old now.
Yeah,
Old guys aren't supposed to have any reflexes anymore. Um,
yeah. And so yeah, so I've been playing CS:GO, which is super fun. Um, and Destiny, which has become like the ultimate like podcast listening game I own, I think. Where it's like, like there's a ton of games I could play and listen to a podcast with. That's a lot of the time that's how I play games. But like, Rocket League, I'm going to get distracted because Rocket League is a very intense, serious business. Destiny is a little more mindless. And in a lot of ways, that's to probably the game's detriment. But for what I want to play right now, it's perfect. Like I feel like after pretty much doing everything I can to, beat The Witcher, I kind of wanted to just chill out for a little while. After playing these really time intense games and
well,
these really
that's what I was gonna
difficult
say.
games, I just want to
It wasn't just The
relax.
Witcher, but you kind of did The Witcher right after going through the Old Blood DLC on New
Old
Game
Hunters,
Plus,
yeah,
or yeah, Old Hunters on New Game Plus. So
yeah.
yeah, it's
I
probably nice to play something that's not.
Which is annoying because you were talking about Dark Souls 2, and I still have Dark Souls 2 on my shelf. And I do want to play that before I play Dark Souls 3. But I like, fuck, I don't know when I'll have time to. You were talking, I think it was you. You were saying, like, I'm looking at the games this year and there's not much standing out. Um, I put together a list of stuff I know that's coming out this year. Well, not know anything could get delayed, but like just stuff that has like a set release date right now, it's already more than like what I had by the end of last year's list that I keep.
Yeah, well, I think part of it for me, if you're talking about when I was talking on Twitter, I was trying to put together like a top 10, my like top 10 most anticipated games of 2016, and I think I ended up with like 6 games total on the list, and I was like, huh. But you got to keep
Yeah,
in mind, there's a lot of stuff that looks really cool, but it's console only, and I don't have that. So,
that's true.
um,
Um,
and then there was a lot of things that I think will be good, but I was having a hard time putting them in like a top 10 list because it's like,
that's bullshit.
right,
Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. There you go.
that's
That's
there.
one. That's number 1 through 10. I'm
I
probably the
am.
only one who gives a shit about that game.
I'm stupidly excited for The Division, and it's a multiplayer centric Ubisoft game, so there's no way in hell it's going to work when it's released. But I can't
That's
like
a
convince myself of that. I'm like, yeah, this looks really cool though.
Oddly enough, like that's one that is not on my list at all. Like I don't. I leave that to those muckety mucks in Washington to deal with. They can play the division. Um, yeah, like new Deus Ex this year. Well,
Mm.
this that'll be fun.
I didn't love the last one. I didn't hate it. It was an above average game, but it's just not my type of game.
I
It's
thought we gave it an award. That was the year I came on board.
yeah,
Like I'm pretty sure we
yeah. I don't think it was game of
gave
the
it
year or anything
Revolution.
though.
It wasn't game of the year, but it was like our shooter of the year
Yeah, well,
or something. But
but I think the thing I don't like about those games, I appreciate the fact that it lets you approach them from different angles because I'm terrible at stealth and it lets you approach it from more of a sheer like firepower standpoint. But you get like the bare minimum experience that way. It's a game that really, 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 really wants you to go non-lethal and stealthy. It's like we'll let you
yeah,
do it the other way, but you're really not getting the full experience. Um,
yeah,
I
yeah.
I don't think it'll be terrible, but that wouldn't make my top 10. I wonder if I kept it here. I think I was writing some stuff down. So, but
XCOM 2. That'll be
yeah, that was on. That was definitely on the list. Um,
like
Dark,
and I'm
Dark Souls 3
like
was probably on the list too.
yeah. Uncharted 4. I'm curious if you like. Obviously, you can't play it. You don't have a PS4, but like after you've just seemed like you've been in hell every time you've talked about Uncharted.
Yes.
Um, so I think your interest in that is going to be non-existent even if you did have the console.
Well, no.
Um,
Here's the thing, and my interest in Uncharted 4, just from a that looks really cool standpoint, is what convinced me to buy the first three. And I'm also fairly confident that I won't hate 2 and 3 as much as I hate 1. I know that they don't completely solve things, but my issues with 1 so far is that it just throws a really fucking stupid amount of enemies at you. It gives you very little ammo, and then like the shooting mechanics themselves aren't good enough for that. Like it's like obviously it's like oh go for headshots because that kills them in one shot or two shots instead of like 37 shots. But like the
yeah.
aiming is just not tight enough to allow for that to
I as someone who's played 2 and 3 and enjoyed them for the most part, I don't think like the shooting. I never played the first game, but I don't feel like the shooting in those games are good. I've never really liked them. Um, that was part of why I liked The Last of Us so much was I felt like everything about it from a combat perspective was a lot tighter and a lot more fluid. Um,
that's what's so funny
Uncharted
is
feels really stiff, like
yeah,
and like
yeah, exactly. Like and kind of like Nathan's drunk the whole time, which maybe he is. It kind of fit, but it and it's funny because it likes to bring up the prompt all the time, like oh press square square triangle to perform a devastating melee combo. It's like how the fuck am I supposed to do that when you have 16 people with machine guns just pouring out of the forest at me or the jungle? Like when am I ever going to use this melee combo? Because if I step out of cover, I'm dead in 2 seconds. And I have it on like the easiest setting because
yeah,
I just wanted to get through the game. I'm not playing this for the like challenge or whatever. So I don't know, but 4 looks pretty awesome. 2 and 3 I think will be a little bit better. It's just 1 seems like there's parts in 1 where you're climbing like ruins, and as you have to climb up on this ledge, and as you climb up there's guys like just standing there shooting you already before you even have an opportunity to do anything.
yeah.
Like it was just so
There's
poorly
a
designed.
there's a point, and I think it was 2, but it could have been 3. It's all the same. Um, like I got to a point where like you go through this gunfight and it's this big open map, and then like this armored dude comes out, and armored guys fucking suck. Like in that game, they're worse than any other armored guy to ever have armor. Um, and but I found like you can just hang off the ledge of the map and just pop out and shoot him, and then scale over to the other side of the map. Takes a long fucking time. Um, but you could do that and they would have no idea how to fucking kill you. And that was the only way, literally, like I tried to do it legit multiple times, but the game has a way of like, because you're limited to what guns you can have, like I went into that fight with the checkpoint hitting like right when I'm like at my least prepared.
Hmm.
So I'm just shooting this fucking armored battle tank fucking X-Men dude. with a pistol off a ledge, and then I'll just shimmy over to the other side when he goes to check out what that noise was. Um,
Yeah, and that's what
and
there was already a point in my game where it was like that where it had just saved. I think I had like 13 rifle bullets and maybe 8 pistol bullets, and there was like 12 enemies that would spawn out of the wood. So I'm like, okay, I've got like a bullet for each person. This will be fucking fun. And like I just had to keep redoing it until I managed to like headshot enough of them to go out and grab a gun and get some more ammo. I don't know. It seems like they were unnecessarily stingy with both the amount of damage you do and the amount of ammo you have because it doesn't feel like it should be that kind of game. But
right, like because it's such a like Hollywood type adventure movie style video game. Like Indiana Jones wasn't like counting his bullets.
right,
Like he wasn't like I only have 4 bullets and we got a whole bunch of Nazis out there. Like he just no, he like he would shoot people, run out of ammo, punch them, and then escape or something. And like those gunfights, I think that's part of the problem is because they're so difficult, it just fucking stalls
right.
everything.
But on the flip side of that, because it's like you say, every time I talk about the game, it's like I'm in hell. But aside from that, I'm loving the characters, and of course, who doesn't love the idea of being this like tomb raiding treasure seeker? Like, I mean, it's Indiana Jones. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, they're different personalities, but you're still getting that same. But so
yeah,
that part's really freaking cool, and I can see where people really like dig that franchise and that universe. But man, it could use some better gameplay. And
right.
like even it's funny because playing it like the whole time I'm like this feels a lot like the new Tomb Raider, which obviously came out way after. But in my mind I'm not thinking it's copying Tomb Raider. I'm thinking I can see where Tomb Raider got a lot of its influences from, and of course itself being a long running franchise. But there's two parts of the gameplay. It's the crappy gunplay, and then when you're like exploring ruins and the like environmental puzzles, those are pretty clumsy, and at least in Uncharted One as well. So like neither
Right.
of those two hooks are particularly good, but the setting, characters, and story are really cool. So it's the kind of game that I
Yeah.
almost like wish it was just a movie, but I don't know. I'll get through it
Yeah.
and then get on to two, and if it doesn't get much better, then that might stall.
Uncharted 4 Until Dawn.
I did find my list, and Uncharted's not on it, but I do have one game on it that I can't currently play, but the new Zelda for Wii U.
Yeah.
But that's more of a like anticipated by like yes, I excited and I hope it's really good, but half the
You
anticipation is just like completely like wanting to know what the fuck it is. Like
sure, but you should just play A Link Between Worlds.
I should.
It baffles me that you haven't.
It's
Because
because
you say A Link to the Past is your favorite game.
yeah,
So
well,
here's this great Zelda game that bases itself directly off of like what works in A Link to the Past
right.
and is so much fucking fun and you won't play it. And it was our game of the year in 2013.
The the only things keeping me from that is I never play. My DS is actually like packed away in a box in the basement, although at least I know where it's at. Um, the digital version I don't have space for on my memory card, so I can't just buy it off the eShop. I think that's one that's on the eShop. And I
Sure.
just like I never buy physical games anymore. To buy the used Uncharted was the first time I've been in a GameStop in like 2 years. Um,
Well, there is an Amazon.
I know, and I
Jungle out
really
there.
should because I know I would like that game. I talked about Division XCOM 2, Dark Souls 3. I did put on my list. Cuphead. Uh,
Oh, fucking yeah, Cuphead. There's no date for that yet, is there?
no, and
That's
that's
why
what
it's not on the list.
and
Yeah.
and it's funny because and it kind of makes me hesitant to put it on the list, but it's been on a lot of people's anticipated list. It sounds like it's fairly because I think it's supposed to be early this next year, like soon, next couple months. So not like
I
sometime
hope so.
towards fall. And then I put Firewatch on here because that looks really cool. The more I see of that game, the more interested I am.
Yeah, I have Firewatch on mine too. I like the way that game looks and I like the premise of it.
Right.
That's all we know about it really, but strong sell for me.
But
Uh,
yeah, that's not
Final. I
in
put
game.
I
So
put Final Fantasy 15 on mine.
really,
I don't know why. Like it always feels like I have to at least give some like acknowledgement to the next Final Fantasy game. And every time they're always saying like, "Oh, we're gonna change this," and I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And then the game comes out, and people are like, "Actually, it's not so good." Um, but I'm like hoping that will be good because I just watched my brother play through Final Fantasy 10, and now he's playing 13 like a fucking heretic. Um, but watching him play it, it's like I'd like to get into like a JRPG like that, but I don't want to do one I've already played before. But I don't want to like try some weird shit that I probably won't enjoy, like Xenoblade or something. So it's like, I'm hoping that 15 will be good. Um, if not, Kingdom Hearts 3 will
three.
come
Yeah,
out.
yeah. I knew that would be on your list.
I
I
don't think that's coming out this year.
I
I
thought it was
honestly
supposed
don't.
to. Well, I guess there's a
It's
huge
that
difference
tentative.
between supposed to. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's that like December 31st, 2016 placeholder. Um, the fact, like, I would say, like, it would have a good chance if it wasn't for the fact that they're doing another goddamn HD.
I was gonna say that doesn't bode well for it coming out this year because that to me that almost always reads like shit. We're gonna have to push this back, but we need to sell something to make some money. So here, let's do
Yeah,
this.
and
Um,
I'll buy it because fuck me. Um, I put the Last Guardian on here, but who knows?
I'm not that excited for it. I'm excited for it to come out, so it's finally out. But
I,
and of
I want to
course,
play.
half of
I
that,
like Go
yeah,
and chat a
yeah.
lot.
And it's easy for me to say I'm not excited for it when I don't have a PS4. So
Sure. Ukulele is supposed to come out in October, and I'm really curious to see what those guys put together. Because that kid, like, that's another one of those Kickstarters where it's like that. I was really excited for the idea of it, and then like the more I saw of it, I was like, "Oh, this could end really badly." Um, and I'm hopeful that it won't. But like we saw what fucking happened with Mighty Number Nine. Um, like yeah, I was all on board with that. Like that's a fucking great. They're good. They're keep making a new Mega Man, but it ain't Mega Man. And now it's like I'm looking at that game. It looks like such trash. Um, the new Ratchet and Clank looks good too. I heard. I mean, they are really like they're doing that thing where they're trying to release it with along with the movie. So they're like, this is a weird sort of situation where they're rebooting the game to cash in on the movie, but it's not a game of the movie. It's a retelling of the first game. I have no idea. Um, and there's The Witness, which will come out at the end of January, supposedly. I don't know why I'm interested in that. Like, that's from Jonathan Blow,
I
who
know,
did
and
Braid.
I was just about to say that I'm almost not interested in it just because I don't know. To me, I
Like,
just have this feeling that it's gonna be like it's been too overblown as far as like being just presumptuous and this and that. But that's probably completely unfair. I admit that's a personal, like a weird personal bias, and
I
everything.
don't think you're that way off though. Like, because that is somebody who is like interested in it. Like, I liked Braid. Everything I've read about the witness seems like it has its head up its ass
Right,
a little bit,
but at
and
the same time, it does look gorgeous and it looks interesting.
it
But
looks all right. I don't know if it looks gorgeous. Like, it's the stuff they say about it, like the stuff the creator's been saying about it. If anything, has like put me off it more. Because like the idea of like, oh, it's this game where you're on an island and you're solving puzzles. All right, I can dig that. But then he like comes out like, oh, you'll never be able to solve all the puzzles. It's like then I don't
well,
want to play it. Like I
I always
like
hate
I don't
that.
want to waste my time.
That reminds me of like the kid in elementary school that thinks he's smart, but like the whole like, oh, you can't solve all these puzzles.
Yeah,
A lot of times that's a mark that your puzzles are bad. Like,
yeah. Like if there's not like a realistic shot of like the general public being able to solve them, then it's like the fucking Riddler had more honor than you, asshole.
Right.
Like
Like anybody, I can just make up an alphabet that has no rhyme or reason to it. I'm literally the only person
it's
in the
like that.
world that
It's like
knows what
that
it
riddle
means.
in The Hobbit. Like you, did you read The Hobbit
Mm.
ever? Like when he's like, "What do I have in my pocket?" Like that's not a riddle. Like
Right.
that's not fucking fair at all. Um,
So, and it can be like if they really do have clever solutions that should be obvious, but they're just like really well done, like really clever puzzles, then cool. But yeah, most of the time when you hear you'll never be able to solve this, to me that reads this is really poorly designed.
you need a QR reader on your phone, and then like it's like I already did the Fez thing, and that was interesting once. It's like I'm not pulling out a notebook and going to Reddit for that shit
I
again.
get right.
Um, unless it's really good, then
No.
I'll fucking eat my own words and do it in a heartbeat. Um, yeah, Twilight Princess HD coming to the Wii U. That will be. I was I didn't think they would actually do that, but I'm so glad that they are because I'm kind of in the mood to replay that game, but I want it to look good and I want it to not be on a fucking Wii.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing, like how much I like Twilight Princess, and everyone I talk to having like they don't, but they all have the same story, and it's always they played the Wii version, and it's like, oh well, sucks to be you. I, p- I played a fucking great Zelda game a few years ago. You guys apparently didn't.
It is kind of funny to see because you know the control schemes going back to the N64 version with the gamepad, control.
The GameCube version,
Or game, yeah,
64
yeah,
version.
that's what I meant.
It like yeah, it comes with a new
Or
boomerang
boomerang.
controller and everything.
But it's like they still won't like admit that the whole Wii U control thing was a bad idea. They just quietly like move everything back to the traditional control scheme.
Right.
But
But there's also Star Fox Zero, which I wouldn't care about if Platinum Games was didn't have anything to do with it. They're apparently helping out with the development of that game, and that's great. Because like Bayonetta has all that sort of like Bayonetta's a crazy action game. They'll just throw like random shooter shit at you, and it's all really entertaining. And honestly, Nintendo should have just gave it to them entirely. In
yeah,
fact, make it Bayonetta
Fox
versus
too.
Star Fox
Yeah,
or something. Like just in fact, just let them make fucking Bayonetta 3. They they deserve it, and we deserve it.
see that's what it's funny because a lot of your list is Wii U stuff, and I put Zelda on there because it's Zelda, but I can't put the other stuff on it at least until I have a Wii U.
You should
I'm
get
terrible
A
at this like
lot of
game
good stuff on
stuff
Wii U.
because everything's like, oh yeah, I'd be excited for it, but I don't have a PlayStation. Oh yeah, but I don't have a Wii U. No, yeah, I don't have a.
It's an expensive hobby, but yeah, you should get a Wii U. At least get a Wii U. Come on, man.
You know, it was funny. If you follow me, I know you do, but if you follow me on Twitter, the last couple of days I've been retweeting the shit out of TakeThis.org. It had their charity stream, and they're a pretty awesome charity. But one of the things that they were doing is basically a raffle. There was like certain dollar amount donations that would enter you in to win a chance to win different prizes, and one of them was a what was the game? It was one of those like special edition Xbox Ones. Can't think of what game it was for, but it was really nice looking. I don't love those special edition consoles, but this one was gorgeous, and it was signed by the developers of whatever game it was. But it was funny because I was thinking, I'm like, man, that looks really nice. It'd be awesome to win. But I'm like, but I don't know at this point that I actually want an Xbox One anymore. Like before, it was like one of
That's
those, like, yeah, I want one, but PlayStation and Wii U or maybe above it. Like now, it's like I think I'd be happy with just those two, and
right.
like never having the Xbox One.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like at my store, like there were some pretty crazy sales over the holidays for an Xbox One, and I was never, I don't have, I didn't have the money to spare anyway. But even if I did, I was thinking like I don't really know what I would play on it.
Mm.
Like for stuff my computer can't handle, which surprisingly, this computer for its shitty processor does all right. I figured out why I couldn't run Ori, and then I played it, and then wish I couldn't run Ori. I'm joking, but like anything my computer can't handle, my PS4 can usually get. And there's not too many games that are just on Xbox One where I'm like, oh fuck, I want to play that.
Really, I
Like,
think right now the only one I can think of, and it's not one that I'm like dying to play, but I'd be happy to play. It's Tomb Raider, but it's coming to the other platforms anyway,
right.
eventually. Um,
Um,
I think there was
yeah,
something else, but yeah, I mean, again, if I would like, I didn't enter that because that was like for the like 60, I think, or $64, or might have been, even been like a $90 donate. I don't have that kind of money after Christmas, but if I had won, if I win one, yeah, I wouldn't like turn it down, but no, I'm not
right.
like really particularly interested in buying one. Now there was, I think I don't remember if it was GameStop. I think it was that did an online deal like right before or right after Christmas, where you could get a used Wii U, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4 for like $620 or something, which is a lot of money, but that's a awesome deal to have all
Yeah,
three new consoles for $600. But yeah, I don't have $600, so as awesome as the deal was, I couldn't partake in
right.
that.
Yeah, so I haven't had that much money in my bank account. I think I had that once this year at some point, and then like yeah, like I'm usually a few hundred less than that, given whatever bills need to fucking get paid at the time.
I was gonna say that's the part that sucks about being an adult, because it's like, oh yeah, I can't afford a PlayStation or a Wii U right now, but I mean we can't. I just had to spend $300 for a new mattress, and that comes with being married. My bed right now, the mattress is like 18 years old. I had it back in high school, and so it's like all caved in, and the springs are all shot to hell. And if it was just me, like, I'd I'd sleep on that until I was 80. Like I'd never
Yeah,
replace it. But my wife is, oh, we need a new bed, blah blah blah. So that's
yeah.
$300
I've
for that.
had,
If I could have
uh,
used that towards a console, I could have one of these. But
yeah, I've had my bed forever, and there's like I'm that type of person too, where it's like, oh, we need this new thing. Well, we could use the money for this other thing we don't need.
right,
But how's that sound? It's like no, you need a jacket, but we could spend that money on pizza.
yeah. And then the only other thing that's really killing me, because there's been a handful of times where I had the disposable income where I could have probably bought one of the consoles, especially used. But I've talked about it before. My main TV out here in the living room is old and doesn't have HDMI. So basically, if I buy a new console and I want to put it on a big TV, I'm going to also have to buy a big TV. So that kind
Yeah,
of doubles the price of the console as well. Eventually, I'll get them. But
sure.
so anything
When
else
it's
that,
too late,
yeah, about the time that like PlayStation 8 comes out, I'll get it for. But
nothing wrong with that.
you picking up anything else on the Steam sale?
I've been going back and forth. Like I had Armello on my wish list for like the last week, just so I could easily get to it and think like, do I want to buy this? And like it's only like $5 off in the sale right now, so
Yeah.
I think I'm holding off on that. Probably wait till it's, a little time's gone by. It doesn't seem like a game that like I need to worry too much about like, oh, it's not hot anymore. Like it seems like a game
Yeah.
that would work at any time. But like I know Tomb Raider was like $3 on there, the reboot one.
And you never played that the first time around, did you?
No.
No.
And and I'm not that interested in it, but at the same time, fucking $3, you know. And yeah, I look at the Steam sale every day, just sort of look through, see if anything jumps out. But honestly, I have enough shit that I still haven't even touched that I have to play. Like And all I want to do right now is play Counter-Strike and Destiny and, like post our game of the year shit and then go back to doing that. And that's pretty much all I've done all week is make sure everything from on my end was ready to go up on the site after work. And then I just play Counter-Strike or Destiny or both at the same time.
I'm trying to think. I picked up Tales of Zestiria, whatever.
Yeah.
I've been wanting that for a long time, and then I saw Andrew of Rat Dog Games. He streams a lot. He was playing it, and it looked really good. But it's relatively new, so it's like $60 still, or 49 maybe $50. And so I was waiting, and it went on sale, and it was still expensive. It was still like $35. But I'm like, that much off, and I've wanted this game for a long time. I'll go ahead and buy it. And it led to my comment the other day where it's like, yeah, I'm always like, I'm in the mood for a new JRPG. Then I start a JRPG. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what a JRPG is like.
Yeah. Oh, no, no, they talk.
So I'm not hating it, but not loving it either.
It's always kind of like, hey, let's get a puppy, and then it fucking pisses on the floor.
Before
Like,
you're
oh,
like,
they
oh,
do that.
oh yeah, I forgot. I picked up two different Star Wars games because after watching the movie, I was in like Star Wars mode, and I think they both suck. And I know people love them, but I think they just haven't aged well. I got Knights of the Old Republic 2, and it's probably the
A lot of people would say Knights of the Old Republic 2 did not age well when Knights of the Old Republic 2 came out.
well, yeah.
Uh,
Like I
It
mean, it's
was it
just
was pretty rough.
it's rough. And then it's like, well, I'll try Jedi Academy because they were both like $3,
Yeah.
and so I played Jedi Academy. It's the exact same. It's a fucking mess control wise, and so it's like, well, there you go, LucasArts or whoever. I guess Disney now gets the money for that, and there's $6. Um, and then I haven't bought anything else, but I've got a bunch of games like actually like moved over into my cart now, but I still haven't been able to pull the trigger. And they're relatively cheap. It's like there's three pretty cheap games that I wanted to buy, and then it's like, and I can justify like one more like bigger, 20-ish dollar purchase, but
Right.
I can't decide what. Dark Souls 2 is like in the debate, but it's not in my actual cart yet. Satellite Rain is only $9, so that's what's kind of keeping it in the conversation in my head. And if you're not familiar with that, it's like the old Syndicate, the top-down, not the first-person shooter that came out 4 or 5 years ago, but the original Syndicate games. It was the guy that like designed those. It's like his um, remake-ish of it or whatever, since he doesn't have the rights to actual Syndicate. And I loved the originals, but I was also like 12 or 13 at the time, and I don't remember them that well. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is great because I've been waiting for a Syndicate game, and it was so important to me. But I'm like, there's a very, very good chance I'll buy this and be like, oh, I don't like this at all. Um, and I'm trying to think what the other one. The ones in my cart are Sunless Sea. I've heard nothing but really good things about that. Uh, Subnautica, which is one that it's kind of one of those like first person survival games, but it's underwater. And the only reason that moved from it's been in my wish list. I use my wish list like crazy. Like I put stuff in there if it even remotely interests me. That way, if it ever goes on sale, I can find it real easy. Um, but I was at a friend's house last weekend, and he mentioned that him and his daughter play it, and that it was pretty good. And I'm like, oh, well, that's been in my wish list forever, and I know it's on sale. And then
Yeah.
Empire Total War. I've always liked the Total War series from a RTS standpoint, but then like it's almost like the Division Ubisoft thing where the rational part of my brain's like, Steve, you dumbass, you never play RTSs. You, I don't particularly like the genre. I mean, there's some that I like better than others, but that's not something that I play a lot of. But then the other part of me is like, yeah, but Total Wars are some of the better ones, and I've wanted one for a long time, and now it's on sale for like next to nothing. Grab it now for cheap. That way, next time you're in the mood to play one, you have it. So, like, those are the games I'm debating right now, and there's probably a few more. Basically, everything. I've got like 36 games in my wish list right now, and all but like two of them are on sale. Um, but like you said with Armello, a lot of them are like on sale, but they're like $2 off. So I don't really. That doesn't
Yeah.
tempt me to buy them.
Yeah. And like I'm kind of, even though I like am financially, I could probably get every game I would want off this Steam sale and be okay. I'm kind of just yeah. After you buy like $100 microphone, kind of maybe I should just show a little fucking restraint and
Yeah.
save up what I have left and be a little bit comfortable because like it's easy to look at these games and be like, oh, they're on sale, buy them now. But like we're literally going right into next year, and it doesn't seem like there's that much of a delay before there's going to be games I want to buy. So,
Right, and it's the thing I say this to my wife all the time, because she's the kind of, oh, I think we've talked about it on the show, but she's the kind of person that you'll go to the store and there'll be an item there that you kind of want but you would have never bought, and it's like, oh, it's on sale, it's only $20, so that's a good deal. I'm like, but that's $20 that you wouldn't have spent at all otherwise, so you're not saving money, you're still spending
well,
$20.
sure,
Like,
but it's a difference of perspective. Do you look at it like, oh, we're just losing $20 on this individual trip to the store, or are we getting something I'm going to inevitably buy at some point,
well, and
and
that's,
I'm
yeah,
saving $20
that's the
then?
big difference when you're, and that's what I'm kind of getting at when you say stuff on the Steam. You see it on Steam sale, and it's easy to buy on impulse because you're like, "Ooh, it's on sale." But like, you got to realistically look like, "Am I going to play this?"
Yeah,
Because it might be
right,
a good deal, but if you're never going to play it, then
right.
then it's not a good
Like
deal.
it, yeah. Like I'm going to like I think I don't remember what the date is for Mario and Luigi Paper Jam, but it's really soon, like January 22nd. Like so, and that's an RPG, so it's gonna take me a little while. And then XCOM February 5th. Like this year's not like this is just shit I know I want, and I know there's going to be stuff that I have no idea even exists, and it's gonna pop up, and I'm gonna be like, oh shit, I gotta pick that up. So I would rather, and also I have to renew my fucking PS Plus,
I
which,
know mine's been out for a long time.
and I don't. What sucks about that is they caught me. They caught me in that trap now, where like the games they're releasing for free kind of suck, but I'm playing Destiny, so I need to be able to get online.
Right.
And like next month, I think like the only one that kind of interests me is Grim Fandango. Well, I think is they announced as one of the freebies on PS4.
That's supposed to
Uh,
be wonderful. I haven't played it. It's funny because I played a lot of those old LucasArts point and click games, but just not that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've always heard good things about it, but I also have that fucking weird thing in me where I don't really like Tim Schafer. Um, So yeah, like it almost feels weird. Like it's like going to somebody's house and eating their food when like both of you know you hate each other.
Right.
Even though he doesn't know who I am, but I imagine he would be like, "Well, you don't like my games, go fuck yourself." If he ever met me, that would probably be his response is like, "Oh, he's a little prick." Um So yeah, it seems weird that like that's the one that interests me the most, and it says a lot that their plus offerings are so.
Games with gold as well. Like there was a time there, and it was kind of like right before the new systems came out, where they were like, it was a nuclear arms race back and forth, and you're like, wow, Bioshock Infinite, oh, Tomb Raider. I think that was one,
Right.
and like all these awesome games, and then now, yeah, both
Like there's a
ways.
lot of that's the thing. Like a lot of people are like, I remember when they gave away like brand new games that were like $60 or whatever, and it's like, yeah, and now they got you, so there's not a lot of financial incentive to screw themselves out of like a new release or
Right.
something. But I do like I would say the membership was worth it this past year. If only I got to fuck Rocket League alone. But like Transistor was a really good one. The Swapper was great. Like there were good games in there. It was just near the end like of the year they kind of petered out, and they haven't really gotten back on track. But like I said, I want to play online. That's just sort of the reality. You have to pay a fucking fee to play online, or you play on PC. Um, so yeah. What time are we at? I can't tell. I think
Yeah.
we're out of time.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes if we want to hit an hour and a half even, but I think we've hit everything we want to hit. Um, as been mentioned, our game of the year like award stuff has been going up this week. Game of the year itself should go up. I don't know if we want to do it tomorrow or Friday. Um, you've got one more like sub award, I think.
Yeah. Best multiplayer will go up tomorrow. Um,
I kind of figured we'd just do game of the year on Friday because that's January 1st. I mean,
and you
we
don't, and
we're,
you don't have any more sub
no,
things.
no, because we cut out some of our
That's
categories
true.
that were more fun to talk about than write about. But
So yeah, we could do best multiplayer tomorrow, and then game of the year on Friday. But do we want something up going up on New Year's, or do we want to? I don't know. That seems like a that seems like a day where no one will fucking
I
give
don't
a
know.
shit.
Everybody will be off work, so they'll be reading in Joystick because that's what you do when you're home on a holiday.
We we know that has never happened. There's never
That's
been
true.
anybody with a day off like, oh, I'm going to read the site.
So, yeah, go check out Njoystic. Although it's got a new theme up too. It's spiffy and clean, and
Looks like a looks like a newspaper for your brain.
yes, a brain
Whatever
paper.
whatever the fuck that means. Um, but yeah, however we do it, I have all my stuff written, so it's just a matter of scheduling it.
Fuck it, we'll put it up right now. Hit the button.
Hit the button. Well, when I
Fireworks
say
go off
written, I
behind
mean
me.
I haven't fucking
Put it.
proofread
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Proofreading's for wimps.
I find I like it a lot more when I kind of do what I did here, where it's like I wrote all the game of the year stuff last week, and then like once enough time goes by and I reread it, then I feel like I'm going into it with a clearer head. When you're like in the thick of working on something though, and it's like, oh, I got to reread it, write a new draft or something, it's like that's a nightmare. So give it like let me write a draft and then take a week off and then come back and
Yeah.
I'll be the best editor you'll ever see.
So, but the point is, there's actually stuff going up on the website.
And there will be stuff going up afterwards. The plan, at least on my part, is a continuous stream of content because I
Mhm.
know we fell off near the end of the year there.
And
What can I
also,
say? Bloodborne came out and that
um,
fucking burned
yeah.
me out.
And I may do a New Year's Day stream just because my wife works, except for the Buckeyes play their bowl game in the middle of the day, so I'll be watching that. But I
Really
haven't been.
like guys.
It's not necessarily untrue, but um, I haven't been streaming as much game stuff lately. But it's the holidays, so there'll be more of that. And I'm looking forward to watching you play some Counter Strike because
Yeah, I
hopefully
bet
that'll
you
work.
the fucking tension, man. You could bottle it. Um, but yeah, so stuff. Just go to fucking enjoystick.com.
Yeah.
Just go to Njoystic on Twitter, and you'll know what we're doing. Like, why are you listening to this bullshit when Twitter and the website do everything this show does and more?
Here's the
Which,
secret: nobody's listening to this bullshit.
that's right. That's, well,
So,
dude, quit breaking the fucking wall.
well, yeah, I'm like the Deadpool of video games podcasting.
You, you're. I would associate the word death with you, but not
Not
in that.
Deadpool. Yeah, yeah, no.
Not Deadpool. Um, but yeah, you can also find us at Phaser3D for Steve, at BP Matlock for me. They're shown in the video now, so they've always been shown in the video for some reason. Uh, yeah,
Yeah. So have a happy New Year. Don't get too drunk, or do just.
yeah. I plan to.
Yeah.
My friend, he made a. There's an actual name for it, but I don't know what it is. So, like, and there's just a label on the jar he gave me, and it's just called apple pie,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like he just took like apple cider and just a bunch of apple shit, and like basically mixed it with Everclear, and it is the tastiest goddamn thing I've ever had.
Yeah.
Where like it's the smoothest shot of something you'll ever have in your life, and you only need one shot because it's fucking Everclear, and you're gonna die if you drink more.
Yeah.
Uh,
Tara's family got smashed on that stuff. You know, not necessarily that exact blend, but apple pie is a generic term for apple flavored moonshine.
Right.
And they had that at Christmas last year, and they were all like smashed on it. I
Yeah.
couldn't be because I had to drive, which sucks. But
Yeah. I had it on Christmas and like I was pleasantly surprised, but I've been holding off. The temptation's been there because it tastes so fucking good and it makes you feel better. Um, but I know that's a floodgate, so don't yeah, stick into my rule. Don't fucking drink on a work day. If you do, keep it light. That's
not
the
Bud
main
Light.
tip. Not Bud Light. Well, maybe Bud Light. If that's all you got. Do what you have to do. I don't know why I brought that up. I just wanted to talk about my jar of fucking hillbilly shit from a dear friend of mine.